Hummel from the Plainville Historic Center, and today we're going to look at Charles Norton's life and also his beautiful mansion on Redstone Hill. Charles Norton was born in 1851. He was born to Harriet Hotchkiss and John Calvin Norton, who were abolitionists in Plainville. And because of their abolitionist beliefs and actions, their little boy Charles had to take a lot of guff from the city or the town kids. He didn't care much for public school. He didn't like the rough and tumble part of going to a public school in Plainville, and so he was enlisted in, or he was enrolled in Ellen French's private school, and he went to school with many of the names that we read in the history books now, the Eatons and the Coles and the Ushers. His mother also taught him at home. Now, being an abolitionist in those days meant that if you walked uptown to the grocery store, you were liable to be razzed by the other kids in town because your parents were hiding black men in their cellar on their way to freedom. His shyness was a problem a great deal of his life, but this life was a great circle. He started in our town and he ended up in our town after a brilliant career. During his career, he went to Germany and showed his grinding method, the famous Norton grinding method, to the Kaiser. He also went to Europe several other times, strictly on business. Didn't care for the sea voyage, though, so he never went back to enjoy the sights and the sounds of Europe. When he was a little boy, about 11, he belonged to, he was a drummer boy for one of the military units, because you see this was during the Civil War. And his mother made him an elegant costume of scarlet breeches and a scarlet cap and a scarlet cape. And he must have been a charming little boy. A little later on, he found a job at the clock shop up at the bridge on North Washington Street. And he was, even at that age, very inquisitive and wanted to know how to do things better, or why do we do it this way. And so he discovered a better way to wash the clock parts rather than stand and wash them in cold water. And it was such a labor-saving device that he invented that he lost his job. They actually said, well, we don't need you now. You were so good to invent this for us. The family went to Hartford for a little while. His father worked in the Colt factory up there, and the little boy used to go to work with his dad and just absorbed all that wonderful industrial sound and the way things were done. Then they came back to Plainville, and at that time he was a teenager and part of a very nice group of young people who used to go and swing in the moonlight from the big elm tree at the corner of Farmington Avenue. It stood there well up into the century. And this is where the clock workers, the girls who worked in the clock shop nearby, used to come with their boyfriends, and they would swing in the moonlight, and somebody always ran under. Now, anybody that does swinging knows what running under means. It means you run under the person sitting on the swing and make them go really high. This was also where young Charles Norton learned that you could attach a lady's skates to her boots and pay special attention to her safety, and you didn't get razzed by your peers because they were doing it too. John Calvin Norton, Charles's father, was a very kind person, a very quiet gentleman who could have probably reached great heights in the industrial picture, but he chose to be instead just a master workman. He never made a lot of money, but he created a loving home for his little boy. Harriet Norton was the strong person. She came from a very strong, outspoken family and was always her little boy's confidant. He had an excellent childhood here in Plainville. He went off and had his career, and then he came back in 1919 and bought the land for the beautiful mansion that's up on Redstone Hill. And the circle now is closing. You see that life circle. He has come back to Plainville. Construction started there in 1921 for a beautiful mansion. The mansion is 3 stories high, and it's made of a very special brick that was hand-picked from the kilns over in Berlin, where the big brick factories are. And it was what they call hard burn to give a special, beautiful color to that. Several local people worked on the mansion, and one was Mr. Weldon, who did some of the plumbing, and a Mr. Simpson, who did the electrical work. Charles would marry 3 times. He married Miss Julie Bishop first and Mary Tomlinson second. And with Julie Bishop, he had 2 daughters, Fanny and Ada. No children with Mary, but with Mrs. Grace Harding, who was a widow herself. She had a daughter named Elizabeth, who he adopted as his own, and people will remember her. He had a marvelous life a very interesting life and did a lot of things that no one else had ever done in the town. And one of the things he did was to receive the John Scott Medal the same day that Orville Wright received that honor. This was a very, very prestigious thing, and only 2 a year were given out. The mansion cost Mr. Norton $50,000 in the 1920s, and in the 1980s it was offered for $250,000, and I would say that was quite an increase in his real estate. He took up gardening and he took up painting in his old age, and in 1928 he and his daughter Elizabeth gave the land for our beautiful Norton Park. There's a lot of things in Plainville to remember Charles Norton from. The clock in the library tower was given by him, and of course beautiful Norton Park, and we just think of him very, very fondly. And we're going now to see his mansion, and I think this is going to be a special treat for everybody. So come on, we're going to go see the Charles Norton mansion. Hi, here we are at Sharpenhoe, the beautiful Sharpenhoe mansion that was built by Charles Norton in 1921. It's now owned by the William Petit family, who has done wonderful restorative work on this. And we're going to see if the Petits are home, and maybe they'll let us take a little tour. It's Bill Petit. Hi, Bill. How are you?
Welcome to Sharpenhoe.
Oh, we're very happy to be here, and we want to see your house, okay?
Come in.
Okay. Well, Bill, this is a gorgeous dining room, and we'd like to know what you and Barbara have done to this. And I understand the piece to my right is one of the original Norton pieces.
Yeah, that's one of his original bookcases. There are two of them. We kept one down here in the dining room that we use as a china closet, as you can see.
It's beautiful. It's
and
just
the other
beautiful.
is up in the library. We use it as a bookcase.
And how about the room in general? Did you follow pretty much their lead?
We tried to follow what we felt that they had as a formal dining room. We refinished the floors. The floors had been done over by the previous tenant, so we had them sanded and refinished.
Yeah, the floors are gorgeous.
And the door that you see over there goes into what was a serving pantry. We put that back in. When we moved in, that wall had been closed off. And that door going into the kitchen wasn't there originally, so the servants would go into the serving kitchen and serve from the serving pantry.
It seems to me, I was here at a Christmas party and you had your bar set up in there.
Oh, yes.
It's very convenient.
Yeah,
now, how about the beautiful painting over the fireplace?
Yeah, that is done by Mr. Norton, and that was a gift to us by the Hurls. Caddy and Peggy Hurl from across the street gave that to us.
And Mr. Norton, of course, took up artwork and gardening in his later years. It was his way of relaxing after a long, long career, probably pretty stressful career. So let's go out in the sunroom. I think that's another room of great interest.
Okay. The fireplaces did have, or at least we were told, had paintings on them. But when we got here, they were painted over, and we could find no evidence of that. But the story is that there were paintings on the panels of the fireplace.
I've heard that story too, and it was supposed to be Scenes of Plainville. But there's a lot of stories about this mansion, and in a little while when we go down in the tunnel, we're going to look at some of those stories. Let's go out in the sunroom.
All right, come right in. Ruth, this is the sun porch. Looks out onto the gardens. As you know, Mr. Norton was very fond of gardening in his later years. And with the home, I have the original blueprints laying here on the table, the original specs, and a picture of Sharpenhoe. This is an estate in England called Sharpenhoe, and it was the plan that this house was designed after.
When he was visiting in England, he saw this, right? Saw Sharpenhoe.
He actually stayed there.
Because as we've already seen, he made several trips to Europe. Never made a trip for his own pleasure. It was always for business, but evidently got out into the hinterlands there somewhere. This is wonderful that you have this original material. It's so important for a building of this historic value. We have another mantle here, and over the mantle is the brass plaque for Sharpenhoe. Is that the other one that belongs up front?
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that there's always been one missing out there.
Yeah.
And in the gardens, he used to entertain friends.
Yeah, we have some pictures here of garden parties that he held out there where he did entertain friends. Also, we have a copy of the front page of the Hartford Courant, 1925, and the whole front page is devoted to Mr. Norton because of his inventions.
When this building was being built, it was started in 1921, and local contractors did work on it, but they also hired people from Hartford. But they had to keep putting newspaper articles in because the whole populace wanted to know what's going on with the Norton Mansion. It was really, really hot subject in town in those days. And I just wanted to say, Bill, that when he built this building, there were no trees out here. You could see the village and the valley, and that's why he chose this site. Let's go on into the parlor, or into the living room.
Okay, yeah, just as a young boy, I used to slide from the back of this property down into Norton Park. And you're right, it was just pastures. It was wide open. And now it's grown in completely.
So here we are in your beautiful living room, Bill, and there's several things in here that you can fill us in on. Please do.
Yeah, well, another fireplace. There are 7 in the home, and this is one of them. The fireplace tools were Mr. Norton's.
And there's a beautiful picture of your family up over the mantle. And, and I bet the kids are just as proud of the house as you are.
They really enjoy it.
And they enjoy coming back, because I see the cards out there all the time.
Yeah, they are here often.
What else can you tell us about this room now? I think Barbara said there were some other original pieces.
The piano over there was Mr. Norton's, and there's another one just like it, again, up in the library.
2 pianos?
Two pianos.
How many fireplaces?
There are 7 fireplaces.
Oh, that's the way to live.
Yeah. Well, we don't use all 7, but we do use 3 or 4 of them from time to time.
Bill, whatever gave you the idea to buy the place? I mean...
Well, I grew up in Plainville, and I always admired the place, and said to myself that someday I'm going to own that place, and here I am.
When Bill Petit says he's going to do something, believe me, he does it.
There are also wood boxes. Actually, there are little trap doors in the floor. You really can't see them, but out in the hallway there's one, and there's one over here which has been sealed up. And there's a wood room downstairs, and they would just put the wood into the holding portion, and then they could open the trap door and take the wood out, rather than carry it up the stairs. So there were 4 or 5 of those in the house.
We wanted especially to show you the beautiful stair that ascends like a crescendo in music up to the next floor, and then there's another floor on top of that. Also 2 beautiful Seth Thomas clocks here. This is Bill and Barbara Petit looking down at us. These people have done wonders with this wonderful old mansion to bring it back to life. Now we're going into Charles Norton's office. Even when he was not working, he was still working at home, as many people do. And you can see it's a small but very comfortable, very homey room, and another fireplace here. This fireplace, of course, is nice weathered brick. How many rooms in the mansion, Bill?
There are 11 rooms in the mansion.
And how many bathrooms?
There are 5 bathrooms, and 7, I already told you about the fireplace.
Yeah, the fireplace. So this is where he would have done his homework, as it were, in this room, and this is your den now, right?
This is my den, and there is actually a small bathroom.
Yes, all the conveniences.
Yep.
So now I think we're going to go into the famous or infamous tunnel that everybody wants to hear about. So how about it, Bill? This tunnel was built for a specific purpose.
Yes, it goes from the house out to his well. There's a well house, and he was not on city water. Well, there wasn't city water then, and so he has a well down there. It's not used today, but the tunnel is still there and the well is still there.
And there's all kinds of rumors associated with this tunnel. When people found there was a 90-foot tunnel with the Norton Mansion, of course, there was a lot of conjecture. One reporter who was really up on her history said she thought it was a root cellar. She missed that by 200 years. And then there was rumor that it was for a bomb shelter during World War II, but of course it had been built then for 25 years. So it really had a utilitarian purpose. We're going to go down now and walk through the tunnel. We won't have any sound in that, but we'll have comments when we come out, I'm sure.
No, the surface water is on the 3rd floor. There's a shower in that room. The workmen would shower in there, and Mr. Norton. That was his laundry room over here.
Yeah.
And
quite the thing for its day.
This was just his main storage area. And there was an old root cellar, which we now use as a wine cellar.
Were those real hands, or did somebody do this?
Oh yeah, I imagine that somebody had fun doing
Very
that.
creative.
Yeah, that was done by the INF.
Looks like something from out in Mesa Verde.
Wine cellar.
Yep, coal cellar in here also. A lot of asbestos.
Goes on and on and on. It's so big.
The old hot water tank is covered with asbestos. We don't use that anymore.
Down, right?
Yes, there is. There's a step right
Here we
there.
go. We're going down into the tunnel. Come on, everybody.
You might not get that.
These are cement walls that were reformed.
Holy God.
You're getting far ahead.
Concrete above,
There we go.
sealed with lead. Boy, look at the ceiling. They sealed within. This is the original water tank, huh?
This is a 500-gallon water tank, storage tank, and this pump is here, not operating now. And this ladder goes up, and there's cellar doors up there, and that's the house you saw up there, Ruth.
Yes, yeah.
So you can go right outside from here. And in the springtime, water just pours in here from the area. You can hear it running upstairs. Yeah.
Even if we get sparkles on the... We have to shine and twinkle still with the stars.
Okay.
I don't know what this is going to come out like, but it ought to be eerie.
Over on Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to give you a schedule of when this will play, because we have no idea right now. It hasn't been edited yet,
Yeah.
along the tentative post. Now we're out in the backyard of the Norton Mansion, and there's a beautiful bird bath here. This was a gorgeous area back in the era of formal English gardens, and we showed you a picture previously of a big garden party that was held here. Well, here we are back at the Norton Mansion, and here's Bill Petit, our host.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Bill. How are you? Thank you for letting us come and see the Christmas decorations. This will be a little special treat on the end of our regular tour that we did here. And as you can see, the banister is all done with greens and decorative pieces. And you and Barbara must have been working for a couple of weeks on this, huh?
Oh, a couple of days anyway.
Couple of days. You're fast worker.
Barbara works every night at it.
Yeah, well, I certainly would work on it too. As we told you before, there's two beautiful clocks here. A lot of pretty ornamental work in this house. The little brackets that hold up the ceiling. There's details here that simply are not put into houses anymore. I don't think you could hire the workmen today to build this house. We're going to go into the dining room now. Bill, this is a drawing, or actually it's a photograph, of Sharpenhoe in England. How about telling us how Sharpenhoe was transferred to Plainville, Connecticut?
Well, Mr. Norton spent a lot of time in England, and this is the estate that he stayed at. It was called Sharpenhoe, and he enjoyed it so much in the way that it was designed that when he came here to build his own home, he designed this home after Sharpenhoe and has named this home Sharpenhoe.
Do we know what Sharpenhoe means? Was it the name of the family over there?
That I don't know.
Well, you know, I've often wondered, and I wish that one of the Nortons were around to tell us, because it's an intriguing name, but my guess is that this was the Sharpenhoe Manor, and so we have one on Redstone Hill now. Bill, there's something else that's very important about this house. You were saying it has a slate roof, and so does this house that we're standing in. Slate was very uncommon as a building material in Plainville because we had no slate, we had all trap rock. And Barbara has gone to great detail and decorated in here. You can see they're all set up for a very large family dinner. And when the Petits get together, it's a large family dinner, right?
It is, yeah. We'll have about 40 here for Christmas.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? It seems to me that would make Mr. Norton happy. I don't know him, but if I left a beautiful home like this, I'd want to see it used.
Well, we are using it.
Yeah, and loving it, and that's great. Over on the mantle is a painting that, I believe you told me that is a Mr. Norton painting.
Mr. Norton painted that.
He didn't start painting until he was 70 years old, and then he went up with it with great gusto, as he did with everything in his life. And we have heard the rumor that at one time there were paintings on some of the mantles, I mean literally painted on the mantle places. And on this mantle you could see a little oval where it might have been decorated, but they were gone when you got here.
They were gone when we got here. They
Yeah.
were painted over, and we tried to see if we could get that removed, but we're unsuccessful.
Yeah, conserving that would be a terribly detailed job. But the painting, I wonder where that's supposed to be. There's the valley laying out there.
I believe it's Redstone Hill. I think that's the Hurl
House, the white Hurl House.
Yeah,
Sure,
I believe
that's
it's from
probably
up the
it.
street.
Yeah.
And fortunately for us, we have 2 more Norton paintings coming to us.
Oh, wonderful.
Mr. Brayton Tompkins from town
Yes.
was in to see me, and his father was given paintings by Mr. Norton himself.
Do you know what the subject matter is?
He told me.
I mean, he did mostly scenery.
It was
Yeah.
scenery. It's scenery.
Yeah.
One is a mountain, and I forget what.
Oh, that's
the other is
wonderful.
just a country scene.
Yeah, we'll want to photograph those when they come in for our museum
So he's going to
archives.
bring them over and give them to us. We're going to have him here one night soon, he and his wife, and he's going to bring the 2
That's
paintings
great.
over.
Yeah, that's great. These are how these paintings kind of filter down from one generation to another. When Alfred Hepworth was in his glory in the early part of the century, he gave away dozens and dozens of beautiful paintings. He only sold very few in his lifetime, but he was a noted artist. But my point was, that generation now is closing up houses and getting rid of these things, and they're filtering down to the Historical Society, and that tickles us because we now have 14 Alfred Hepworth paintings. And another one coming in that's supposed to be in very bad condition. Back to Christmas. Christmas on the Hill, Bill. Let's go out into the living room. Bill, I've never known how this house actually was placed on the National Registry of Historic Places. And before I go any further, I want to say that's a very prestigious listing. We have 3 in Plainville, your house, the campgrounds, the Methodist campgrounds, and the Farmington Canal. And it took me 12 years to get the Farmington Canal listed. So who was pushing for you?
Well, of course, that happened before we got here, but as I understand it, the Inventors Society were instrumental in having this house placed on the National Historic Register because of Mr. Norton's inventions and his contributions to society through his inventions.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I never knew. I suddenly got a letter, a very official letter from Washington saying the Charles Norton Mansion. And as you said, this was not because Mr. Norton built a mansion. It was because he contributed so much to keeping the wheels of industry moving,
It was
literally.
because of the person rather than the house itself.
And his brother also was a famous inventor. And they were in business. Yeah, they were in business up in Worcester together. They each had a lot of patents. We have a book of Charles Norton's patents. That's thick. It's over 100 patents in there. So this was a very prolific, very producing person, and I can understand why they wanted to mark his house. This house, as far as we know, you're the 3rd owner, right?
3rd owner, absolutely.
And that's kind of remarkable for a house built in 1921/22. I think the average house in Plainville probably has had more owners than that.
I would think so. But Mr. Norton lived here, or the Norton family lived here until 1958, I believe, and when the Ioannidis bought it. And we, of course, moved here in 1991.
So there was pretty good span of tenure
Yes,
for all those people.
absolutely.
Now, when you and Barbara first moved in here, you said you had told me earlier in the tape that I said to you, what inspired you to buy it? And you said when you were a kid you always wanted to live here. And when you finally moved in, it must have been a tremendously exciting time for you.
It was an exciting time to move into the home that I'd always wanted to own, and to restore it. It needed some restoration.
Oh, yes, I saw it
and we've been
before you
working on
moved in.
that.
Yeah.
And so it was an exciting time for Barbara and I to do.
Not a lot of people get to do that, Bill, to move into their dream house that they've seen since they were a kid. But that's reminiscent of Mr. Norton having originally built the house here. He built it because when he was a child he loved the view.
Yeah,
And of course then Redstone Hill was a dirt road.
Yeah.
Wandering on up there, and about the only thing up here was Caddy Hurl's old hooker house across the street.
That's right.
Which was a tin shop. And as you know, you'll probably know, the center of Plainville almost developed on Redstone Hill because of the tin shops. And we sent tin out with peddlers all over this part of the country. But let's go out and perhaps see a little more of the decorations in another part of the house. And that's interesting. I'm glad to know that about the National Registry. That's great. Everywhere we look, Barbara Pettit has done little vignettes of old-time days with Santa Clauses and reindeer and things that will appeal to all her grandchildren as well as to the adults that visit the mansion over the holiday. It's a generational design, I would say.
This is our mantle of Santa Clauses. These are Santa Clauses that we have collected over the years, given to us by different people, or we've purchased out and about. We have here Santa Pettit dribbling a basketball.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
It's a paper mache Santa.
I especially like this guy with jointed knees here.
Yeah, that's a nice one. This guy does just about anything you want him to do.
That's great.
He's interesting.
Yeah.
And these are, I think, like alabaster.
They're reminiscent of the old Father Christmas.
Yeah.
That's quite a
I
collection.
particularly like this little one
Yes.
on top.
That looks like King Wenceslas,
Yeah.
or one of the people in those Christmas carols.
Yeah, and this one is just a tin
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Can.
they used to fill those with Christmas candy. Yeah.
Christmas candy or Christmas.
This is a great Santa
Yeah,
Claus
yeah,
over here. He's
yeah.
even got the list.
Yeah.
You better be good or you won't be on it.
Well, he came from Pettit's General Store.
And he's great.
And we were selling those a couple of years ago, and so I got one for myself.
Now, have you marked these, Bill? Do you know what year you obtained them and so forth?
No,
Well,
not
this is a suggestion from a historian.
Yeah.
Put a little sticker on the bottom
Yeah.
and what year you got them and where you bought them, because I have a Thanksgiving turkey from the flower shop, and I got it in 1969. You know, that's getting old.
Oh, yeah.
And I want my kid to know
Well,
about
where
that.
it came from down
Yeah,
the line.
yeah,
That's a
exactly.
good suggestion. I will do that.
It's a good thing to do. Well, that's a fine collection, and it certainly is beautiful on the old brick fireplace. And even here, it isn't just brick. There's nice graduated pediments here holding up the plain mantle. Very nice. Thanks,
He
Bill.
built character into
Yes,
each of them.
not only character, but the best of materials. And as I said before, I don't think you could build this house today.
Always.
Really don't.
I couldn't.
Well, I meant literally.
I certainly did.
All right, there's your storyline right there.
This is a desk from the Broad Street School where I attended school. All of my children attended school.
And it's
I-
now public housing, right?
Public housing.
Yeah.
Ann Torrent was the principal of Broad Street School while I was there. And of course, the school is now the Torrent House.
I think they gave you a desk too small for you, though, Bill.
Well, right now it's a bit small, but it fit me nicely then.
But that's beautiful to have the old school desk that you might have actually used. I mean, you don't know, maybe that was your desk, right?
Could have been.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's fine.
There were 10 children in our family, and I remember growing up, Christmas was a special holiday. Christmas morning, we were up bright and early to go down and look at the presents. Of course, we couldn't touch them until Dad got up and came down, but Mom always made Christmas special for us. There were plenty of gifts, even though we didn't have a lot of things. She made sure that we got new coats and sleds and stuff like that at Christmas. And as I say, Christmas was a special
Very
time
special
for us.
time.
Yeah.
We loved our trip down through the tunnel. We loved our trip through the mansion. Bill, thank you so very much.
Well, we were happy to have you and happy to show you what we have. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
And Bill, thank you for taking such good care of Charles Norton's mansion.
Well, we hope to continue doing that.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Bill, for entertaining us the second
You're
time.
welcome. It's been our pleasure to have you.
And Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you.